back to Ztalks. Today we're going to be talking with Michael about what are concerns he's looking at and what are some of the optimistic points in our future, as we have mentioned some of the problems we're facing that no one's talking about. Let's talk about the problems and actually look at some upsides. So what are some of the things that you've been looking at that concern you?
As of lately, the economy, because I worry about the stability of it.
So what's your situation? Are you working?
Right now, I just finished my master's degree in business at USF, and I'm looking for a job.
Looking for a job. Are you, and what do you see when you're looking for a job out there?
I see lots of jobs that I wouldn't like to do. But honestly, there are some good jobs. They're hidden gems, it seems like, that you really have to search for and you really have to work hard for if you want to get into.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, like when I came out of school, I had a degree in legal studies and I worked in a law firm for a few months, hated it, and then joined a .com. I've never really done much related to my college education.
Right.
And being a master's in business administration, it's a really interesting time to be in business. I mean, I have to ask you, what does the landscape look like for you?
For me, as an MBA student, business is broad, so there's a lot of different things I can do, and I have to lock down what it is that I want to do exactly. And then you have to sort through the BS of job descriptions to get down to what you actually are going to do in a job. And so I guess the landscape, I think there's opportunity, but you really have to do your work to find the right ones.
Do you think, I mean, here we are, we're in an interesting part of the country, right? Because we're in Sarasota, Florida, which is a beautiful place, and please don't come here.
There's enough people. Traffic
it's growing. But a lot of them are retirees. A lot of people here don't work. They've made their money and they're sitting comfortably and living on the beach, right? For your generation, there's some new technology companies. It's very different than, say, California, where retirees leave to go to Midwest or Pacific Northwest. But you also have lived in other places. How does this environment compare to other environments you've been in?
Well, first impressions, there's a lot of wealth here, but that doesn't mean that it's easily accessible. And so there's money all around, and as a business person, you're thinking, great, what a robust, thriving economy. But then there are some really interesting, in my opinion, downsides, because it seems that as a young person, there's almost some discrimination involved in some areas because the demographics here are just older.
Right.
And so if I'm looking at finance as a young guy, I'm going to have to sell to guys who are in a completely different generation, in their 70s and 80s. And so you have to really be able to adjust.
Right. And it's funny because when I came out of college in California, go Bears, the .com boom was taking off.
Sure.
And basically, if you were older than 25, you were old.
So that's like the opposite reciprocal.
My CEO was 24, 26. I can't, Scott, I don't know if you're watching how old you were, but he was just a kid.
Sure.
He's a multi-billionaire now, but the point is these kids were out there doing internet stuff, and we had a few of the older generation come in with money and they tried to adapt, but they didn't do well.
Really?
We had a CEO who was 60 and he couldn't swing with what was happening.
The information just too different.
Whereas here in Florida, it's exactly opposite. Like here in Florida, unless you're 50 and a multi-millionaire already, you can't even get a higher level job. Like you have to be a 1%er to get the job because they want to make sure you understand that culture.
Exactly.
Right? So like CEOs often here are making $150,000, $250,000, but to them it's not about the money. They just want to be involved and be social. Whereas the working class guy who worked up, forget about it.
As a young person, I think there's opportunity. You just really got to fight for it and prove yourself,
I think there is opportunity because things are changing, and they are changing rapidly. And it's also when you're young, you can take risks
True.
To tell the audience, Michael came to me with this idea. I went to him. I said, hey, if I give you $300,000, what kind of business do you want to do? He looked at me like, are you crazy? I said, it's not a lot of money, but let's look at, doing a business together. I know the next generation has got its finger on stuff that my generation doesn't. He came up with a drone company. There was one drone company in town. We came up with another. And Michael pitched this drone idea, and we looked at about, I counted what it was, I think 7 or 8 different revenue models, right?
At least.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time and money on this adventure, which was fascinating, right? Because what does the media say about the drone industry?
It's the next big thing, it's going to change things, change the way we do things, change how we construct buildings, how we construct our roadways, how we look at spatial area.
And I think another big point was, hey, look, we have a big agricultural community. Can we work on the greening issue,
Sure.
which has wiped out our citrus crops, which has been a multi-billion-dollar problem. So we were looking at really practical things. We even went to the county and said, we'll do manatee watch during the boat races, right? And looked at that versus helicopter costs. And we looked at real practical things, search and rescue, which is a big one in the drone community, but it's not really being utilized.
No, and some of that's regulation, as we found, and some of it is the technology isn't there yet. I mean, I still think there is hope for the drone industry. It's just not where people are saying it is now.
Right. DJI, which is the big drone producer, they sell most of the drones. They're a Chinese outfit, and now because the data goes up into the cloud, and now China, through our drone flying, has visuals of our entire country, the federal government has now said you cannot use DJI drones in any of the military operations because the contractors were using them and other people are using them. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of regulations, and then so you want to fly over a house to get some real estate photography. Well, it's got to be in a special area. So we found it to be drone service providers, at least, not really a viable business model.
No, definitely not.
Right?
Not yet.
Yeah, and not yet. But even the big thing is it's all going to be automated.
Exactly. They're going to take the pilot right out of the equation.
Right. We became federal FAA licensed drone pilots. Created a course, taught other people, so they could pass this ridiculously hard exam, but we're not going to need people.
It was somewhat of a viewpoint because the industry, people utilizing drone services, it didn't seem like they cared if you had the FAA license or not. The real estate companies, at least at this point, basically said, hell, the government's not coming and saying I can't use my photographer, to do pictures, and then he'll just throw his drone pictures in pro bono. Sure. And now, okay, so where does the license come in?
Right, there's little workarounds that people figured out that the licensing isn't. And then obviously the market's so small and people are making such few dollars that who really cares?
They're making promises they can't keep in a lot of situations too, which is bad for the reputation of this industry.
Right.
People saying like we were going to try to do thousands and thousands of acres of farmland, and we went and ran experiments, realized no, it's not going to work.
Right. You have to look at the energy cost. I mean, these things require a tremendous amount of energy and can carry very little weight. There's two types of drones for those of you at home. There's some that just use your wavelengths like on a remote control car, but the real ones that we use go through satellites. So you have multiple satellites guiding it. So you're dealing with GPS. You're dealing with government-issued licensure. And so when you're using a DJI product, you're using 8 or 9 satellites, and that's what allows you to fly very far, far away.
Exactly.
And that's also what makes them a little bit dangerous.
It's a little terrifying,
That's what we kind of felt. We realized this is a little bit scary.
Yeah, and the privacy issues, you know, let alone if your drone falls on somebody's head or $1 million boat. I mean, it seems like a lot of risk, and at this point, the reward wasn't there for
Yeah,
us.
we talked to the county, we talked to the sheriffs, we talked to a lot of people. They're all very interested, but no one's willing to throw down any money to utilize our services.
Now, if you have a drone and you know you want to start a little side business, you might be able to drum up some clients who pay $100, $200 to come out, film their boat or their car, or their house, you know. But as far as really doing it right, you know, and making a go at it, I mean, we've seen companies like GoPro fail in this industry.
Sure.
You know, the Karma drone came out and was a bust. I mean,
Just fell.
Laughable.
Right.
You know?
Well, all the drone sales are horrible.
Right.
I mean, they went up, everybody got it, now they're sitting in people's closets and they don't want to upgrade because, hey, I went to the beach 3 times, I had fun with it,
Yep.
I spent $1,000, now what?
Exactly. It's
Right.
novelty. Or they crashed it, you know.
One area where they are being used is in film.
And search and rescue.
Search and rescue a little.
In other countries, let me say that.
Yeah, our country's a little problematic regulation-wise. But the film film industry, you definitely see a use for it because a lot of shots that you can get from a drone are fantastic, and you don't have to have a helicopter or a
return
plane.
on investments there.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, we're seeing that. Well, that was interesting because after we realized there was not a real viable way to make money doing agriculture, filming, doing search and rescue, even doing photography, which would have been the lowest level, any type of delivery service, any type of repair, modification, even enhancements. We looked at the whole array. We went to the conferences, we spoke to all the people, we talked to the investors. We came up to the conclusion there's really no way to make a business out of it, but we learned a lot.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah, so then we came up with another idea. Remember, our next idea was we were going to take this information that we have in books about universities and make it a video digitalized so people can look at their phones and get a quick view of each particular university.
A profile, essentially.
Profile. That didn't really turn out very well either.
No, it didn't.
So we're just explaining what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So what were our issues in implementing that idea?
I think the largest issue was getting the vision to resonate with our audience, our investors. You know, it was such a on the cutting edge type of idea that it was hard for the type of investors we were going to really understand what we were trying to do.
Yeah, we went to one billionaire, had lunch with him. It was horrible. It was so funny.
It was painful.
The guy,
and it was hot too.
It was hot.
Oh.
Yeah, and he, you only get these guys for a few moments, and we try to explain it, and he never really understood what we were doing. He thought the idea was horrific. Because it cut the parents out of the decision-making process. And I don't think that's really was the right idea. It was really, we're trying to inform young people so that they can be happy and make sure that there's the right place for them at any particular university.
Exactly.
If I'm really into playing tuba, I want to make sure that the people who are playing tuba at that school are people I want to hang out with.
Sure, exactly. And
right.
We were trying to bring in the social aspect and really kind of make it a more immersive experience.
Right. So that was that. So now we're looking at the job market because Michael's a budding entrepreneur. I've already been an entrepreneur for back when it was easy. Now it's much harder. And now we're looking at the job market. So here he is. If you've got an idea or a place for Michael to work in your company, something entrepreneurial or innovative, this guy's your guy. But with that, we just want to say thank you and see you next time.